So for my global issue, I chose oppression throughout control of women's bodies. For my first extract, I chose the graphic novel Persepolis, written by Marjan Satrapi, who is an Iranian graphic novelist, and she writes about her childhood during and after the 1979 Iranian Revolution. I chose specifically the first two pages of the chapter The Veil, and in the book they're page 3 and 4, which is when the girls are in the school and they start being forced to wear the veil, which is like the first big rule imposed by the regime. For my second extract and non-literary text, I chose the collage Your Body's a Battleground by Barbara Kruger. Barbara Kruger is an American feminist artist known for her critique of power, consumer culture, and gender politics. This collage was made in like a U.S. protest about abortion and women's rights, which is really like a signature for Barbara Kruger, as she usually does collages to criticize a lot of issues, especially in the US. So starting with Persepolis, here in the first page we can see like a visual uniformity, as we can see all the girls are lined up and dressed the same, and like the veil like looks a lot bigger compared to their bodies, and how the black dominates um, the like panel. It's like a direct like it shows oppression like right from there, like the whole background shows how the girls just with this new rule the oppression started, like they started feeling oppressed, and it shows how moral absolute the regime is. Then we have like the rigid panel structure, which again I think it relates a lot to oppression, as it shows the lack of freedom, and like the order imposed by authority, which is like they're all the same, they're all lined up. We can also see it in the facial expressions, like as you can see here, like none of the girls is smiling, they're all sad or grumpy, or like they don't understand what's going on. So like for they are already losing their like right to express themselves, you know, like in a way they're losing their voice, like they don't have a voice anymore. There's also, well, of course, the symbolic clothing of the veil, which shows the clear loss of individuality, as now they all look the same. And I think something really important also is the caption from like Adolf Satrapi, that it says, it's like around here, on 1980 the veil became obligatory. For me, this is a clear regime of how like brutal and cruel the regime was. Like, you know, like they were targeting kids from a very young age, just enforcing these rules, enforcing this ideology, like in a way using them as some kind of insurance of building their new empire. Because like if you teach them from they are little, then they will grow with this ideology and follow it. And I think something also really important is the child narrator's perspective, as we know young Marjan is like narrating these events, and we can always see like the confusion, like she doesn't understand what is going on, she's just observant. And this is like really how unfair like the regime was. Children didn't even understand what was going on, but they were still forced to follow these rules. Mm, Now for the collage, the non-literary text. Here we can see it. And as I said before, it was created on a 1989 pro-choice march in the USS, and it challenged political battles over abortion and women's bodily autonomy. Um, I want to show how this extract shows oppression. I think firstly, the thing that you most notice um, when you look at this collage is the split face, um, because I think Barbara Kruger uses a positive and negative image. She uses two photographic halves to create like this woman, and I think this really symbolizes how society splits and analyzes women's bodies, like treating them like objects, like they judge them, they control them, and debate over them. And like I think all this division about all these opinions fragments women's identities, and it's all based from political struggles. And especially in this case, I think about reproductive rights. Another thing that I obviously notice is the red, black, and white color palette, which I think is the signature colors for Barbara Kruger and all her collages. And I think in this case, like the red represents, like makes the collage look a little bit more propaganda-like, because red is like a strong color, and it a lot of times represents aggressiveness and violence. in a public discourse. And like I think in this case is the case. I don't think she's trying to motivate violence, but she's saying how political um, political groups or political regimes or the government in general are towards women and women's bodies. And the black and white really show how like there's like this constant battle, and like there's just this always these two sides, and like the red is all around it because it's really what it like as a whole represents, and it really is. And of course it makes you like be more attractive to it and like be like, this is not about something nice, she's talking about something serious, a serious topic, and she's direct about it. Something of course really important, I think, is the phrase "your body is a battleground." By using the word "your," it already makes like the viewer be personally involved. And I think she calls the body a battleground because she refers how like there's always these opinions, as I have said, like from political views, from men, from like everybody. There's always these different opinions about women and their bodies, and of course, there's also what women think. So there's like this constant battle about like if what is right for women, if she looks good at this, if the woman body is this and this and this, and there's just ton of opinions that a lot of times go against each other. But it's always like the woman body and the woman who is in the middle, which is like um a clear war. Like there, it's a war, and I think that's what she uses because of this. And also, lastly, I think the rigid and emotionless expression, because I think we like it's really interesting because this we see it in Persepolis too. Like here we can see how like with these expressions women just like conform silently to societal expectations, not because they want to but because they have to, like they don't have other choice, so that they just like stop like thinking at all, like even expressing themselves with the lightest smile they can transmit a message, and they cannot do that anymore. And this shows how dehumanizing this political oppression is. And like I did a synthesis to show how both texts reveal the global issue, and it's obvious that both use techniques like contracts, fragmentation, and composition to show how women's bodies are controlled by systems of power. For example, Sartre uses physical control with the mandatory veil, and Kruger uses political control through the debates about reproductive rights. They also both show identity loss. As we know, like the girls in Persepolis all look identical veil, so they're not their own person, they're just the same, and they have to be the same. And Kruger shows it with the split, dispersonalized, and turned it to a symbol of political conflict. Like the split face shows the complete identity loss.